The thing about working in fast food is you just don't get it unless you've worked in it. Anyone who's worked in fast food knows how soul draining it is, and Tim Hortons was no exception. I started working there right when I turned 15 and worked part-time through high school and full-time through the summers. I remember feeling so rich during the summertime because I literally had no bills, so everything I made I kept. Those were good times. I worked at a location close to my house, so I could bike there in like 10 minutes when I didn't have rides from my mom, except for in the winter. You can't ride a normal bike in winter in Canada. So at a Tim Hortons, you either work at the front, where customers come into the store to order, in the drive-through, or in the back. If you didn't work in the back, when you were new, you'd start at the front and work your way up to drive-through. In the drive-through, we had this thing called times, which basically meant us being timed on how fast we were at the drive-through, and we'd get in trouble if our times were in under a certain number of seconds, like 30 seconds, for example. But we'd try to get the times down to like 10 seconds, which meant a car was only at the window for 10 seconds, which was rare. Most customers took their time at the window, so it was really hard to keep the times down. The best customers for this were the ones who literally didn't say anything to you. They just had their money ready, grabbed their stuff really fast, and drove off immediately. So if you had a bunch of customers who were slow and your time sucked, there was nothing you could do about it. But the thing is, by rushing everything with times, the company is basically encouraging a terrible customer experience because you can't be super hospitable and extremely fast at the same time. It's either you get all the stuff out the window as fast as possible and stare at the customer uncomfortably to get them to drive away quicker, or it's a warm, pleasant customer experience. Because, no joke, you would get in trouble for being too friendly because it would slow things down. The company is so focused on keeping the drive-through as fast as possible to make more sales, therefore more money, that they've totally destroyed the personable experience people used to have when going to Tim Hortons. Nothing is like, "Hey Bill, how's it going today?" "Great, what can I get for you, sweetie?" in like a genuine way. Instead, it's like, "Hello, what can I get for you?" with a fake dead smile. So if you ever wondered why it seems like Tim Hortons workers or fast food workers are trying to rush you, it's because they get in trouble if they don't. But speaking about getting in trouble, there was this one cute guy who would come in and order a black coffee with, I think, 4 sugars. One of my supervisors who worked with us on the floor, let's call her Stephanie, had a huge crush on him and liked serving him. So one time he came in and she was busy stocking up one of the mini fridges. So I go up to her all sneaky and tell her, "Hey, it's the 4 sugar guy. Do you want to serve him?" And keep in mind, I'm like maybe 16 and really shy, so I asked very politely. But then she sort of gave me a weird look and was like, "No." So I'm like, "Oh, okay," and go and serve him. Later, after my shift, she pulls me into the office and tells me not to tell her what to do since she's the supervisor and doesn't need me bossing her around, basically. I was really confused and scared, and like I tried explaining where I was coming from, that I only asked because I know she likes serving the 4 sugar guy, but I must not have explained it well because she just reiterated and told me not to tell her what to do again. I think that was one of the times I went home crying. Another thing about drive-through or front counter was that everyone preferred the jobs where you didn't have to talk to people. So things like making the coffee and getting the baked goods were preferred over taking the customer orders, let's say. So if you were new, you'd get stuck with the sucky jobs. And because I'm a huge people pleaser and wanted to be the best worker ever, I was super kind to everyone who came in. So I ended up getting stuck with those jobs more because I was good at it. When I finally graduated from front counter to drive-through, I was stuck taking the customer's order more often than doing the fun jobs like making the coffee or getting the food. And during Christmas time, we actually had to sing to the customers in drive-through. And because I was one of the few who were willing to sing, I was, of course, stuck taking orders. We literally had to sing, "Welcome to Tim Hortons. Can I take your order, please?" And then the customer might chuckle or be really annoyed. Then, after they told us their order, we'd have to sing, "Would you like an apple fritter or a Boston cream?" Which is two types of donuts they sell. So, yeah, if you don't like a certain job, don't be good at it. I did eventually get to make coffee sometimes, but that was definitely not my main job. Asking the customer if they wanted a donut or whatever else was called upselling. Basically, it was trying to get them to buy something else so that the store made more money. And oh boy, did customers hate that. You could be having a decent interaction, but because you were forced to upsell something to them, they'd often totally change their attitude after that and be annoyed with you, but we had no choice. One annoying thing I remember we had to do was when someone ordered something with peanut butter on it, we had to put the entire food prep board into the dishwasher, which really interrupted the flow of making food, which wasn't the customer's fault. Like, they didn't know we had to do that. And I get it. Like, obviously, we need to make sure that no one has an allergic reaction, but it was just really annoying when it happened. Another thing that was super annoying was how, at the first Tim Hortons location I worked at, we had to arrive 10 minutes before our shift or we were considered late. But we weren't being paid for those 10 minutes. So that annoyed me so much because I was the kind of person who could show up 2 minutes before my shift and be on the floor, on time, ready to go. So why did it matter if I arrived 10 minutes early? I'd just wait around for 8 minutes doing nothing and not getting paid for it. I think one time I was threatened with being written up if I kept getting there late, even though I wasn't late. And yeah, that irked me. Although I guess it wasn't so bad because I had a crush on a guy working there who was my age, and he worked in the back, so I'd sometimes get to talk to him before my shift started. We ended up dating for a year or so when I was like 16, 17. That was an interesting relationship. So yeah, it wasn't all bad. We'd get one free donut, muffin, croissant, or cookie per shift, and free hot drinks like coffee and hot chocolate. There was also this one time where we had to work in a mini food truck while our restaurant got renovated. It was actually really cute and cozy, and people were nicer to us than usual for some reason. So, yeah, that was Tim Hootens. I have more stories, so let me know if you like this. Bye!